Yo, what is going on, everybody? Jay What Ifs back at it again with What If Deku Had Waterbending? Um, this is the finale. I just want to say this now. Thank you all so much for watching the series and giving me the support that you guys have. It's honestly, it's such a blessing, like more than you guys can like truly understand. I didn't start my channel that long ago, but I'm just so grateful for being able to come on here and express uh my like passion for making what ifs and like just being able to be a nerd around people that I know are going to understand what I'm talking about. And I don't think you guys understand like how truly special that is for me because it I don't know. Like I'm truly blessed by God for the ability of being able to have this like kind of surface to be able to spread my voice. So, uh, I just want to say thank you all so much, and I'm not trying to get too sappy on y'all, but like, subscribe, leave a comment what y'all want me to do next down below. And without further ado, let's get into the finale of What If Deku Was a Waterbender. So our story picks up right whenever the month-long break happens after the forced training at Kark. And what Izuku decides to do with this break is tells Fuyumi, he tells all of his friends that he's actually gonna go visit his like homeland, and they're all like, "Wait, where are you from?" And he's like, "Oh, I'm just from this place in Antarctica." And they're all like, "Wait, what?" And he's like, "Don't worry about it. I'll be back soon." Probably a week or something. And everybody's like, okay. And him and Fuyumi had made plans the next week to go on a date. And Izuku, he goes back to the Northern Water Tribe and he's like, wait, what's that? And he enters and it's smoking. And it's like, wait, what? And he's like, and he just sees the Northern Water Tribe in shambles. And he's like, wait, did somebody find this place out? Like, is it compromised? And one of the elders comes up to him and they're like, you've got to help us, Izuku. You're the only one who can. The spirits, they're. Ugh. And he's just like, wait, the spirits? Wait, what? And he was immediately like, it's gonna take so long, isn't it? And he's like, and he texts Fuyumi and he's like, hey, it's gonna take me like another week or two here. And she's just like, wait, what? And he's like, and she's just like, we had plans. And he's like, I'm so sorry. I'll make it up to you. I promise. I'll bring you back a souvenir. And Fuyumi's just like, fine. And it better be good. And he's just like, of course it will. And after this, uh, he immediately goes to the spirit pools and he just sees the like two fish just sitting there, like looking at each other, not swimming in circles, but like sitting there in one space looking at each other, and he knows they're alive too. That's the thing. And he's just like, "Oh God, what are y'all guys? What are y'all doing, Tui and La? What are you guys doing?" And he ends up meditating, and he goes into a spirit realm of the he goes into the spirit world of the Northern Water Tribe. And he goes out onto the balcony and he looks up and he sees Tuit, the moon spirit, and La arguing and like fighting, and he can't quite make it out. And he's just like, Tuit, La, come down here right now. You guys are in trouble. And they both look down. They're like, oh, Izuku, you're here. Wait, we're in trouble. And they go back into their human forms, and we see a beautiful girl with white hair, and her name is Yui, or Yue. Uh, you guys probably I'm probably butchering that. I haven't watched Avatar: The Last Airbender in a hot minute. And then a guy with black hair, and his name is La, and he's just like, "What are y'all arguing about?" And they both hug him, and they're like, "Izuku, you're back!" Like ignoring him and his question. And Yue, she kisses him on the cheek, and La just ruffles his hair like older brother. And yeah, so Yue kisses him on the cheek and he hugs them back and he's like, I missed y'all. However, and he gets super angry and he's like, why are you guys arguing and screaming? Have you not realized that you're sending the water tribe into shambles? And they both look down and they see like smoke arising from the city, like people just screaming in chaos, and they're just like, oh, our bad. And he's like, yeah, you're bad. So anyways, what were you guys even arguing about? And Yui just starts blushing, and uh and Law just speaks up, and he's just like, fine, whenever you first left, Yue was planning on using like an astral projection form to scare your girlfriend off, because she felt like she wasn't good enough. And Izuku looks at Yue and is just like, "You what? You were planning on doing what?" And she's just like, and she looks at Law, and she's just like, "Why did you tell him?" And she's just like playfully hitting him pretty much. And Izuku's just like, "Is that really why y'all were arguing?" And and they both just nod, and he's just like, "Okay, well, you can stop now. I'm not going." And he like looks at Yui, and he just like gives her a death stare, and he's just like, "But if you ever do this again, or if you actually go through with what you were trying to do, I will come back here, and I won't even have to use bending, and I will beat you senseless." And they both just get shivers running down their spines, and they both like nod like aggressively, and he's just like, "Okay, good." And he smiles, and he's just like, "All right, now let's just talk." And they just all just start talking, and they just chill, and he's like, "Fine, I should probably go help my people." And they're just like, "What, you have to go already?" And he's like, "Yeah, I do, I'm sorry." And they're just like, "Fine, but you better come and visit us again." And he's like, "All right, I will, but just make sure you don't, start arguing again, because these people can not handle it." And they're just like, "Okay." And after this, Izuku, he goes out of his like this spirit realm, and he just like, "All right, time to get to work." And he just starts helping his people, and he's helping them rebuild and regaining it back into society. And the elder talks to him, and he's just like, "Boy, when are you gonna end up being king and replacing this old hag, this old bag of bones?" And he's just like, "I'm not gonna be king. You have an actual son for that." And he looks at the son, and he's just like this nerdy, wimpy kid, and he's just like, "Oh, I can't pass it on to him. He's just some wimpy kid. But you would be a perfect successor." And Izuku's just like, "Come on, old man. You know I'm not gonna be able to take it." And he's just like, "Yeah, I know, but still." And he's just like, "Okay, I'm going back. I'm going back home." And they're just like, "You really already?" And he's like, "I'll stay for one more day. How about that?" And they're all like, "Yeah." And they throw this huge feast, and Izuku, he chows down. And what he decides to do is he decides to bring a little uh, water tribe pendant back for Fuyumi. And he, of course, brings back a plate of food, and he seals it into a block of ice, so that way it doesn't get like wet, or like it doesn't, get gross. And after this, he goes back, and he has like 1 week left before like school starts back, and he's like super tired, and he just goes over to Fumi's house, and he just passes out. Like he goes to Fumi's room, and he just like lays on top of her and passes out. Like, and she just chuckles at like the fact, and they both just fall asleep, and she does it with like really no argument. And then the next day, they both wake up, and Izuku gives her the pendant, and explains like the meaning behind it, like basically saying that he has a little tribe up in Antarctica. And he doesn't explain like his power at all. Like, he just says that it's a quirk, like, because even though like he trusts Fuyumi, it's still like, if they ever like break up or anything, like he doesn't want that like on his shoulders. So after this, uh yeah, so him and Fuyumi just go on a date, and he just starts training. And then finally it's time for him to go back to school. Fuyumi's like not happy about it, but she's just like, "I know you have to go back to school, so I'm not gonna protest too much." And he's just like, "Okay." And after this, he's just talking to his like usual friend group, and Bakugo walks up and is like, "Hey, I need to talk to you in private." And he's just like, "Okay." And they both just walk outside, and Bakugo's just like, "Look, I didn't need your help, but I guess I should say thank you for saving me back there at the hideout of All For One." And he's just like, "Yeah, of course. I can't just let one of my classmates die, especially not one like you." And Bakugo's just like, "Wait, what do you mean like by that?" And Izuku's just like, well, I mean, you're chill. Like, I mean, like, I'm not going to let my classmate die, yeah, but I still consider you like one of my friends. And Bakugo is just like, wait, you consider me a friend? And he's just like, I've never had a friend before, like a real friend. And Bakugo doesn't says this, but he thinks about it, and he's just like, whatever, nerd. And he walks back into class, and Izuku does the same. And after this, they all sit down, and Aizawa enters the room and tells everyone that, okay, kiddos, so we have a little thing that's gonna happen. I know, we just got back from break, but it's not finals, I promise. But we actually, just in case another thing happens like the thing that happened with Bakugo and that sorts, I think that we should actually take some precautions. And you guys are going to be taking a provisional hero license exam. So what that means is you're going to be able to get a hero's license, and that means you can be a provisional hero, meaning you can defend yourself and not get in trouble with your quirk. And everyone's like, oh, that's so cool. And I was always like, okay, but you guys have a month or two in order to train. We're going to say 2 months. And he's like, all right, you guys have 2 months to be able to train and get your skills up to par with whatever you need to be a pro hero. And everyone's like, oh yeah. And after this, they all go to the training grounds and they all train in the way they do, except for Izuku. What he does is he wants to learn how to control things that he can't physically like feel. Like he wants to learn how to control gas. So he goes up to Midnight and he's like, hey, do you mind using your quirk on me a few times? And she's just like, of course, kid. And so that's what they do. And after this, he just works on trying to not necessarily have to like see like or feel water particles, but what he can do is he can sense them inside of different things. So he can sense the water molecules inside of Midnight's gas, and whenever she does it to where there's absolutely none, what he does is he controls the water around it and he captures it into a little ball, and he can send it right back at you with double force and make the gas like 10 times worse. And then so that's a little OP thing that Deku has now, or Izuku has. And finally, it comes to the day of the exam. Everybody gets on the bus and they're just super excited. They're all just talking and they're all just having fun. And finally, they get to the site of the provisional hero license exam. And after this, they all get off the bus and they see a strange lady with blue hair and an orange bandana on her head come up and talk to Aizawa like, Aizawa, when are you gonna marry me? And everybody's like, wait, what? Aizawa has a fiance? And he's just like, no, class, she's just a random lady that I don't know. And Mr. Oak's like, oh, come on, don't be like that. Don't lie to your students. And everybody's like, wait, what? You're lying to us? And he's like, no, I'm not. Now go away. And they just keep on going, and finally it's actually forget the school's name, but her class introduces themselves. And like honestly, Izuku, I can see him making like pretty decent friends with all of them except for Yoshindo, which is the one dude. And he's just like, hey, if you're gonna be like that, you can at least not lie. And Yoshindo's like, wait, you figured that out? And he's like, yeah, it's not that hard to figure out a fake person, when in reality a spirit was telling him this. like a spirit that nobody else can see, but a spirit was telling him like, yeah, that person is definitely fake, I would not trust him. And Izuku's like, alright, bet. So after this, they all go in and the announcer's like, alright kids, and blah 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 blah. And then he drops the walls, and after explaining the entire thing, and everybody scatters, and 1A, they group up, and Izuku's like, alright, I'm gonna need some of this, and I'm gonna need some water. And Todoroki's like, I bet, and makes a huge ice geyser for him, and he steals all of it, putting it on gauntlets, and he puts a little like ice thing on his back to provide like extra support and for like extra water as well. So that's what he does. Then after this, a bunch of people like just bum rush them, and he's just like, all right, and he just freezes almost like all of them. Or not freezes, but he just wraps them all in water, and he's like, all right, go crazy. And he just gives them to the class and like put one per person, because I think it was one person needs to hit 3 targets or 2 targets. I don't remember exactly, but I'm pretty sure it was like get 2 people out, and they all passed that, and then Izuku's just like, all right, bet, Todoroki, let me get some more water real quick, because I just used like all of it. And Todoroki's like, again? Man, you burned through that stuff way too fast. And he's like, nah, I'm just kidding. And he takes all the water back, and he's like, hey, good luck, you guys. And everybody's just, and all of them are just like, wait, what? Like, did we just lose? And after this, they all go to the next area, and the room spins around, and it's the whole like stupid stuff. And then it's like while they're while they're setting up for the support section of it. And after this, I can honestly see Izuku not losing a singular point, just because of how Izuku acts, and because you also have to think he is healing water, meaning he's not going to have to make them wait in order to heal them. So what I can see happening is with the first one, he's like, are you okay? Like, can you hear me? Is everything okay? And the announcer being like, oh gosh, this kid. And he's like, okay, I want you to stay perfectly still. And he lifts the rubble off like with his water, and he heals the person. He's like, oh, not bad, kid. And he's like, no points deducted. If anything, you just gain more. And what he does is he raises a little platform like cloud, and he puts the person on there, and he goes all out. Like, he saves like 3/4 of like everybody in there. And he's talking, and before all of this, like, it's a little bit of a flashback. He tells Bakugo to stay at the support mat because he has a really bad feeling about something. And all of a sudden, after this, I can see like Izuku taking all of the people back to the support mat and healing everybody all at once, like making a huge like warm rain that heals everybody all at once. And all of a sudden he hears a massive explosion, and then he hears another and another and another. Todoroki, Inasa, Bakugo, and Yoshindo are all fighting a main villain. Like, it's Gang Orca. And Izuku's just like, crap, Bakugo, why? Why are you fighting him? And Izuku just walks over there, and he's like, calm down, guys, I got this. And everybody's just like, no, we're not gonna leave you like this alone. And Deku's just like, don't worry about it. It's fine. Like, he's an orca. I have a water quirk. I could probably detain him easily. So he encases him in a bubble of water, and he's like, see, it's everything is fine. And Gang Orca immediately breaks out. Because, like, it's an orca. Like, he's not going to just, like, he's not going to just take that lightly. Like, it's water. That's his main attribute. And Gang Orca breaks out, and he's just like, it's not gonna be that easy, hero. And he rushes at Izuku, and Izuku's like, oh, I understand it now. And he steps, and then he acts like he's shooting a water ball, like a basketball, and he's like, swish. And after this, Gang Orca gets encased in another bubble of water, and he's like, it didn't work once. What makes you think it's gonna work? Wait, what? Wait, how are you doing this? And he immediately passes out, putting him into a hibernative-like state. Everybody's like, wait, how did he do that? And Izuku's just like, oh, well, orcas, they're typically like attuned to frozen climates. So instead what I did is I heated up the water to a point where if he stayed in it for too long, he would immediately pass out. And everybody's like, wait, you can just do that? Like, we need to control temperature, but that precisely? And he's like, yeah, I mean, it's not too hard. And after this, what he does is he has a healing spell on Gang Orca because he's still in water. And, well, actually no, he wouldn't do that because that's his like major habitat. So after this, I would say like he gets like a first place score. I don't remember if they like got a score for it, but honestly I would say like nobody has to have the remedials, because you have to think Toga never meets Uraraka or Tsuyu or Deku. Like, she never meets any of them, so I don't see a reason why she would take over Kanei's body. And I'm gonna say like Kanei, she's like talking to Izuku like through the whole thing, like trying to get his number, and he's just like, hey, I'm a loyal man, like I got a girl, and she's just like, oh fine, but can you at least hook me up with that cutie over there, referring to Baku, and he's like, yeah, I got you, playing Cupid again. So he's just like, hey Bakugo, come over here real quick, and he dabs a Bakugo, and he whispers in his ear, he's like, if you mess this up, you're actually cooked. No if and or buts about it. You're cooked. Like she was the one asking for your number, so you got this, my boy. And he snaps and he walks off, and Baku's just like, wait, what? And him and Kami, they're talking it up, and Kami's just, like, Kami's, I'm just gonna say, like, she's like super bold. She's just like, all right, I want you to take me on a date. And Baku's just like, what? Fine. And like secretly, he's like, you know what? This might actually be fun. So what happens is Deku's like, oh my gosh, my boy. And he's just like, hey, why don't we just go on a double date? And Kami's like, oh, that sounds fun. So what happens is Kami and Bakugo go on a double date with Fuyumi and Deku. And what I can see happening with this, I can see them going bowling, and Deku, I would say he would get like second place, and Bakugo would get first, then Kami, and then Fuyumi. Like that's what I'm gonna say the order was. Actually, no, I'm gonna say it's Bakugo, Kami, Fuyumi, Deku. And only reason why Deku was in last place is because he wanted to let them win so that way they could feel good about themselves. Because he knows Fuyumi is that type where she wants to be able to win. And Kami is the type where she wants to not lose, but she wants to like know that you weren't holding back. So she goes up to Izuku and is like, why'd you hold back? And he's just like, oh no. And Fumi's like, wait, you were holding back? I thought you were. And he's just like, no, I was trying my hardest. And he winks at Kami. He's like, shh. And Kami's like, oh. And he's like, yeah, I mean, sorry. I thought you weren't really trying, but I guess you were. And Baku's just like, even if he was trying, he still would have lost. I mean, even if he wasn't trying, he still would have lost. Wait, would it be even if he was trying? Yeah, even if he was trying, he would have lost anyways. And Kami's just like, oh, you're gonna take that? And Deku's like, yeah, I am. Because I am a smart man, and I'm not gonna lose this with Fumi. And Kami's just like, oh, you are smart then. And Fumi's just like smiling, like hugging him and doing coupley stuff. And then I can see them all going to dinner, and Fuyumi and Izuku just doing coupley stuff, and Kami and Bakugo kind of just sitting there, and he's just like, okay. And Deku's just like, okay, Bakugo needs to make a move. So he like kicks Bakugo under the table, making Bakugo like lean and put his arm around Kami, and she's like, oh, I like me a forward man. And Bakugo's just like, oh, this man Izuku just saved my life. And after this, like, they just start like cuddling up like in the booth, like along with Fuyumi and Izuku, and they get food. I'm gonna say that they get Mexican food. We'll say they get Mexican food. So I'm not gonna say like Mexican food, but after this, the next day I'm going to say school happens, and after this, Deku, what happens? Man, my voice is going hoarse. Well, probably not hoarse, but it's just I cannot speak right now. Anyways, they're in class, and the big three enter, like Mirio, Tamaki, and Nejiro. I think that's his name. I can't remember. But Mirio, Tamaki, and Nejiro. Nejire. I don't know where my head was at. Nejire. They all walk in the classroom, and Mirio challenges them all, and he's like, oh, and if you can beat me, I'll give you guys third year grub for a week. And Izuku's like, oh, my big back senses are tingling. And everybody's like, what? That's not even that good of a deal. And Deku's like, I'll fight you one-on-one for 2 weeks. And Mirio's like, you have yourself a deal. And they just start going at it, and Deku, what he does is he immediately encases him in like an ice bubble, like thinking that he wouldn't be able to get out like a normal person. And Mirio immediately phases out of it and he's like, oh, that's not gonna work on me. And he just runs at Izuku and he's about to land a massive blow. And Izuku's like, oh, so that's his quirk. And he's like, I don't fully understand it yet, though. So what he does is he creates an ice pillar, making Mirio have to phase through it, so that way he doesn't just punch a block of ice. And he's like, "Oh, but you can create ice." And he's like, "No, I can move water, and I can control the temperature at will, and I can make it solid like ice, and I can make it gas like steam and mist." And he's like, "Oh, that's so cool." And he's just like, "You would be an amazing pro one day. Like you could make number one." And he's like, "Yeah, I know." And Mira's just like, "I like the confidence, but don't be cocky." And he immediately like phases up it. Yeah, he phases into the ice pillar and he phases all the way up and gets like right next to Izuku. And he's like, "Oh, that's not gonna work on me." And Izuku falls through the ice and he's just like, anyways, it was fun, and Mirio tries to follow him by permeating through the ice, and in that he's just like, "Oh, I understand it now. So you can pass through solid objects like problem, meaning you could meaning your quirk probably works like this. You try and find the space between different atoms so that way your body can permeate through those spaces. So it works better whenever the particles don't move as much. So in that case, why don't we give you super rapid particles so that way you have to full that way your permeation quirk can't fully slip through the atoms." So what he does is while he's in the ice, into a he turns the ice pillar into a dome, and the inside is water and the outside is mist, like pure mist, like fog that's controlled and condensed, so that way like all the cells in it, like all the atoms, are moving at such a rapid pace that there's absolutely zero room to escape from. And the water inside is healing water, but it's like knocking him unconscious. And Mirio's like, if I could phase through water, I could phase through this. And he tries and he tries and he tries and he just physically can't. I'm just gonna say this now. I don't exactly know how his permeation quirk like works like on a scientific level, so I'm just gonna say it's like that. So he's just like, wait, I can't phase through this. How are you doing this? And he's just like, I'm just built different. Like, don't tempt me. And Mirio's just like, wait, what? And after this, like Mirio's about to pass out and he lets him go and he's like, I win. And Mirio's like, yeah, you win, bro. And after this, I can see Izuku just grubbing down on some third year lunch, and it's just like, like if you thought first year was great, think about triple that. Like they get like premium steak, they get like the best of the best, and Mirio, Tamaki, Nejire, they all sit with him at lunch because the basics. Then after lunch on that day, they all go back to class, and it is actually revealed that they're gonna have another internship day. And Mirio comes up to Izuku and he's like, "Hey, so I'm interning with this guy named Sir Night Eye. I feel like you would really enjoy him. I mean, you're a really funny guy, and I feel like he would enjoy you too." So he would go and he would recommend Izuku to Sir Night Eye, and especially knowing the mission that they have coming up, like Mirio would just be like, "Yeah, he's a perfect fit." And Sir Night Eye's like, "I bet, send him in." And Izuku's like, "Yeah, sure, why not? I'll at least try it out." Like he doesn't know anything about the mission yet, and man, I can't stop yawning, man. But anyways, he goes, and I can see him immediately making Sir Night Eye laugh, like making some stupid statue of All Might doing something stupid, and Sir Night Eye would start like, like no. Yeah, yeah. I can see Sir Night Eye just like bursting out in laughter, and like I would say like Night Eye would just be like, "All right, well, now you're gonna be interning with me. So after this, I would like you and Miria to go patrol and try and get as much information on the case as followed." And he tells Izuku about the case, and Izuku's like, "Oh, that's horrible. Who would be able to do such a thing to such a little girl?" And and Mirio and Izuku just look at each other and they nod, and both go outside and they go on patrol. And about 2 hours into patrol, they both see this little girl with a one horn who bumps into Izuku, and says, "Please help me. I don't want to have to go back with that man. He's scary." And they look down the alleyway and they see Overhaul, and Overhaul just says, "That's mine. Give it back." And Mirio looks at Izuku and he's like, "Give her back. Like, let her go." And Izuku's like, "No, I can't." And he steals some water from the like ground that's near them, and he launches a huge ice spike towards Overhaul. And Overhaul, he touches it with his hand, and he like disintegrates it. And Eri is terrified at this point, and Deku's just like, "Oh, so that's your quirk." And he's just like, "I understand it now." And he gets more water. And what he does is he covers his entire body in a block of ice except for his hands, and he uncovers his head as well. And he takes Overhaul to the interrogation office. And Mirio's just like, "Wait, you're that powerful? You can just understand something that quickly?" When in reality, spirits just tell him pretty much everything because they've been around for centuries, so they just know a bunch of different things. Like, realistically, having a spirit power like that is honestly just, sorry for that noise, is honestly just like so broken, because you have to think you have millions and like of centuries of worth of information at literally just a single voice. Like, I don't think people understand how OP that is. And anyways, so they take Overhaul to the police station and they interrogate him. And Izuku hears everything and he's just pissed. So he's like, and he walks out of the room and he slams the door and it cracks the wall. And Mirio's like, "Oh no, this isn't good." And he knows that Mirio is gonna try and follow him and stop him, but he froze the door shut and he's like, "Mirio, I'll be back. I'm going to let off some steam." And after this, Izuku, he goes to the hideout of Overhaul and he's just like, "Yue la, give me your power. I need to show these people that what they did was wrong." And they're just like, "Of course, Izuku, anything." And immediately Deku just blitzes in and he takes names and he takes numbers. Like, he's taken everything. Like, he is making people so frozen that they nearly get frostbite and making them so burnt that they nearly have burn scars on them. But Izuku, he traps them all in one big block of ice and water, like putting healing water so that way they don't die, obviously. And after this, he goes to the final person and he's just like, "Okay, you're gonna tell me everything or else." And the guy's like, okay, please." And he's just like, "It's over there," pointing towards the like bullets. And he's like, "Good, now you're coming with me." And he snaps his finger and he immediately gets flung into the ball full of villains. And he's just like, and good. And he's just walking out of it looking like an absolute boss. And all of a sudden, like, he sees blue and red lights and he's like, "Oh, what's this?" And at this point, he's calmed down. Like, he let off his steam. He sees Mirio, he sees Aizawa, he sees Night Eye, and he sees All Might. And a bunch of cops all coming, like, all appearing at the front gate in order to save Izuku. Because they think, "Oh, it's just one dude. How is he going to be able to stop, like 50 villains by himself?" And all of a sudden they just see a massive ice ball, and All Might and Aizawa are just like, "Wait, what?" And Mirio recognizes that and he's just like, "What? How?" And all the cops, not recognizing that this was Izuku, they just start opening fire. And Izuku's like, he just puts on an ice wall and he's like, "Stop firing! It's me! Like, I'm fine." Like, not an ice wall, but a water wall. I feel like I've used ice a lot in this version, but regardless, it's such a broken ability that I feel like was so underutilized in Avatar: The Last Airbender. Like, you have to think, they realistically could have made anything out of ice, yet all they did was freeze people's feet, pretty much. Like, dude, look at the Water Tribe. They used water bending to make an entire Great Wall. Like, bro, and their entire civilization was based off of building with water and ice. So that's all I'm gonna say. And the cops stop firing, and he's just like, thank you, and he walks out and carrying all the villains, and everybody is shocked that he did this mission basically solo, like completely by himself. And he just like lets out one of those like visible breaths, like whenever it's cold, and his eyes are just like glowing the regular blue, and everyone's just like, what? That's crazy. And he's like, here, take these, and he hands the cops this like huge block of ice villains, and he's just like, I'm going home and sleeping. And he goes home and he sees Fuyumi standing outside of the door, and she's just worried, and he's like, hey Fuyumi, like smiling and being like in a good mood. And he's just like, I'm so tired. He hugs her and he brings her inside, and they lay on his bed, and he's just like, I promise I'll tell you everything and clear your worries after I wake up. And she's just like, okay. They fall asleep, and after they wake up, or while they're sleeping, we see a scene of Nezu talking to all of the pro heroes, and they're all just talking, and they all agree this kid needs to be a pro hero. And they're all like, wait, but what ranking should we give him? And All Might's like, honestly, I don't see why he should be any less than number 4. And then after that, like, he just cleared basically an entire over, like he cleared the Chie Hasaikai. Like, this kid is insane, and he did it by himself. Like, if that doesn't deserve the number 4 spot, I don't know what does. And he's like, he also has such battle awareness and like empathy that he didn't let the kid go back into that hellish hole without saying something about it. And everybody's just like, we agree. And with that, and Izuku wakes up like having a dream, and he wakes up like stirring in his sleep, and Fumi's like, oh, good morning. And Izuku's just like, good morning. And he tells her everything, and she's just like, oh, that's horrible. It's good that you were there for that little girl. And he's just like, yeah, I know. If I wasn't, they were just gonna leave her and let her go back. And all of a sudden he gets a call. It's from Principal Nezu. He answers it, and he's like, so you're no longer at UA. You are no longer enrolled in UA. And he's like, wait, what? And he's like, I'm no longer enrolled in and like Fuyumi is just like, wait, what? Like, what does it say? And he's just like, I'm no longer enrolled in UA. And they're both just like, that's absurd. Like, why? And Nezu's just like, well, you took out villains without permission. And he's just like, but that shouldn't be ample and Nezu cuts him off. And with that, we're giving you a full-on hero license, and we're also making you a pro hero, making you the youngest pro hero of all time. And Izuku's like, wait, what? And he's like, oh, and I think I should mention, you're also number 4. So, because you soloed the Chie Hasaikai, and took them all out single-handedly, we are making you number 4 ranked in the world. And he's just like shocked, and he's just like, oh, and you will have your own agency. So what? I need the name of your agency whenever you get back. Thank you. And the call ends, and he's just like, wait, what? And anyways, Deku, he says it, Fuyumi and them both just look at each other like smiling and laughing, and they're just like, oh, we gotta celebrate for this. And after this, they go on to celebrate, and they go on a date. And after this, Izuku goes back to Nezu, and he's like, okay, I have the name for my hero organization. Just because I don't feel like coming up with a name for this, we're just gonna say it's his organization, and his hero name is Tue La, I think I decided on. Regardless, yeah. And after this, like, he goes on to grow up, and we get a scene of him and Fuyumi getting married, and we find out that she's pregnant with a little girl, and they decide on the name Katara. Thank you all so much for watching What If Deku Had Waterbending. This series was honestly so much fun to make. It was a blast from the past for me to make, because I grew up watching this show, and honestly, like, I feel like waterbending is such an underutilized thing in the show. And honestly, like, whenever I was like finding like sub-bending elements and like abilities that waterbending had specifically to its own, there was not a lot. Like, there was only like a good handful that I actually would have wanted to implement into my story. And so I hope you guys liked my version of What If Deku Was a Waterbender. Thank you all so much for the support on the series. Like I was saying earlier, it's honestly such a blessing. So thank you all so much, and without further ado, peace out, have a wonderful night.